Hi, and welcome to our second webinar of the year from the team here at Dux Soup. Before we get the ball rolling, let me start by properly introducing myself. I'm Jo Henderson, and I'm a member of the marketing team for Dux Soup, and you'll usually find me here every 2 weeks. Joining me for our InMail focus session today is Giles Garnett, our Head of Professional Services. And if you have any questions for either of us, just add them into the questions box on your GoToWebinar dashboard, and I will either answer them or I will share them with Giles at the end so we can get a more in-depth discussion going on with a bit of a demonstration as well. Any links that we discuss or any articles that we talk about, I will share the links also in the webinar, GoToWebinar function, and it'll be in the chat function. So keep an eye on those two. And then I will be back at the end of the session to go through the questions and let you know about the next upcoming webinar. And with that very short introduction from me, which never normally happens, does it? I'll hand over to Giles.
Thanks, Jo. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone, wherever you may be in the world, and welcome once again to our first, I guess, proper webinar of the year. The last one was like an introductory one for the year, sort of summarising what we're doing this coming year. Today we're talking about InMails, everyone's favourite subject if you've got a premium account of LinkedIn, of course. I will be going through various aspects of InMailing, and everything I'm going to cover today will cover Pro users, we'll cover Turbo users, and we'll cover cloud users of Dux Soup. So there's a bit of something for everyone in here. This is a topic we return to every year or so, just to revise it, just to refresh it, just to remind everybody that's there. And also some things on LinkedIn change as we go through time as well. So keep your eye out, there may be something new in here. There's a few tips and tricks as to how to get the most out of this as well. Jo, this one's for you, I think.
Oh, okay, that popped up in there. It's like a little surprise to make sure that I'm still here, isn't it? I will share the link in a second, the G2 link that's on there, but we like to have your reviews. I think you probably know that by now. So just a reminder, because I don't think we discussed it last time, to share your reviews of Dux Soup on G2, and then we're very, very nice, and we reward your wisdom and sincerity and your views on your experience with a lovely cap. They're all limited edition, and if we're really nice, then we'll let you choose your own colour as well.
Cool, thanks,
Right,
Jo. Anyway, see, I'm keeping you on your toes today. Now, my other challenge today is to find some links that you can't find quickly for the chat box. We'll see how we go. Okay, so without further ado, let's crack on. The agenda for today, we'll very briefly cover what's Dux Soup, in case anybody's new to Dux Soup. What are InMails? Because very often when we cover this topic, we get a lot of questions. Well, what are InMails? Can you explain them properly? We'll talk about InMail composition tips and sort of approaches that are very, very important to take into consideration if you're using the InMail functionality of LinkedIn. And then how you can truly maximize your outreach by targeting what we call open link profiles. I'll explain a bit about that as well. Then we're going to do a very quick Dux Soup Pro and InMails. We'll do a slide on that and a demo, how you can utilize it for all the Pro users that are on the call. And then after that, we'll talk about the Turbo and Cloud users, where you can put InMails into your campaigns. And we'll do a demo on that as well. And hopefully we'll have plenty of time for lots of Q&A at the end. That's the plan. Looking at the clock, let's try and crack on and let's get through this as quickly but as constructively as possible, because there's a lot of information in here to cover. So, for anyone who's new to Dux Soup, and many of you will have seen this before, what is Dux Soup? It's a Chrome extension which you can use to mimic human behavior on the LinkedIn platform. That's the free version of LinkedIn, the Sales Navigator, the Recruiter, all the different subscription levels. You basically define your list of targets, and then you get Dux Soup to run your chosen activities against that list. And Dux Soup mimics human behavior, and that's really important from a keeping your LinkedIn account safe point of view. There are 3 different editions. There's a Pro edition, there's a Turbo edition, there's a Cloud edition. You can read all about those on the website. There's the pricing link there below, and there's also a real post about the difference between the 3 editions, explaining what the functionality differences are there. So hopefully Jo can add that one into the chat box. So what are InMails? Now, a lot of people say, well, I'm not familiar with what InMails are. So InMails are a messaging facility within LinkedIn which allow premium users, so people who have got a paid subscription for LinkedIn, to directly message non-first degree prospects on LinkedIn with an extended message. You get a certain number of InMail credits per month, and you can carry over up to 3 months worth of credits. However, using Dux Soup, and this is where the trick that the functionality that Dux Soup's got, we can target what we call open profiles using Dux Soup. And open profiles accept an InMail message without it costing you one of your precious credits. So that's where we've got some really unique functionality of Dux Soup, which can really help sort of turbocharge your InMail outreach. What we'll go to in a minute, or we'll get there in a second, yeah. So when you're a premium user, you're paying money to LinkedIn. So you want to make sure you're going to make best use of all of the functionality they provide. So if you're paying for your Sales Navigator, for example, it's quite an investment, and you then get the InMail functionality. Now, with a regular Sales Navigator account, a standard Sales Navigator account, you get 50 credits per month. And okay, well, that's okay. 50 credits a month, that's okay. That's a couple of messages a day through the course of the month. However, if somebody responds to you within 90 days, you get your credit. And if you're using the open link functionality and targeting those people who accept free InMails, you can send out up to another 200 InMails a week. But bear that in mind, it's a huge increase on those 50 credits. Now, there are some caveats to that, and that's what we'll go through during the course of this webinar. With an InMail, we can write a much longer message, 1900 characters plus the subject header. With a regular LinkedIn account, regular LinkedIn connection request, we're limited to 300 characters. And remember, connection request messages are usually only available at scale if you've got a paid LinkedIn account of some sort. So if you're running a free LinkedIn account, all of these things are part of the sort of the value proposition, if you like, of Sales Navigator, and maybe one of the reasons to consider upgrading your LinkedIn account. There's a little bit of guide here as to the different number of credits you get per month. These are LinkedIn related, so this is not Dux Soup related. In LinkedIn, depending on the type of account you've got, you get a different number of InMail credits every month. And I'm going to be focusing here today primarily on Sales Navigator, because that's where the functionality of Dux Soup and its maximizing possibilities comes into play. So with Sales Navigator, that's what we're going to be focusing on here. I'd say probably at least 50% of the people I have calls with these days have a Sales Navigator account. So we are seeing that becoming more and more standard if you're wanting to do anything at scale on LinkedIn. Just the nature of the environment and the nature of an industry at the moment. There are other paid versions of LinkedIn, so do also consider that as well. But that's what I'm going to be focusing on today, is the Sales Navigator, the interface and the functionality there. So if we want to maximize those outreach opportunities, how can we get open link profiles, and what are they? What are open link profiles? So they are, when you sign up for premium, or if you go into your options in your LinkedIn account, you can select to open up your profile to accept InMails without it costing you a credit. The people who do this tend to be people who are working perhaps in sales and marketing. They tend to be very active on LinkedIn. They're highly engaged on the platform. So you know that these people are invested in the platform. They're usually the heavy users of LinkedIn, shall we say. You can only select to have an open profile if you're paying LinkedIn for a premium account. And then within Dux Soup, what we can do is, when we're doing whatever actions we're doing, whether that's enrolling into a campaign or auto visiting in Pro, we can then, in our skipping options in Dux Soup, say we only want to target profiles that are open link. And then Dux Soup will skip past anybody who isn't an open link. So as I said just now, this allows us to send up to 200 InMails per week in Sales Navigator. That's over and above your normal 50 credits. Remember, those 50 credits are quite precious, as they're a scarce resource. You're paying for them. However, you're getting this extra bonus on the side, if you like, and Dux Soup can help you really leverage that and get the most out of it. So if you're thinking about InMails and everyone think, oh great, I can write a really long message to people, everyone's eyes light up and they think, great, I can send chapter and verse out to everybody. Well, actually do think about that when it comes to how you're using those InMails or those messages and those approaches. Just because you've got an ability to send a really long message doesn't mean you should. Remember all of the normal rules about how you engage with people on LinkedIn. Be concise and to the point. Provide context as sorting out, and what are you doing? Why are you trying to, what are you trying to achieve in your outreach? Think about that. You know, you do that when you're writing a connection request. You try and show empathy with the target that you're reaching out to, and try and start a conversation. Give that person that you're reaching out to a reason to respond to you, whether that's with a recommendation or an answer to a question, or some advice or some feedback even. All of these things you should take into consideration. And just because you can write 1900 characters doesn't mean you should, because people will probably read the first 3 lines and then decide whether they're going to read the rest. We all have a very short attention span when it comes to dealing with mailboxes. We're all guilty of it. And it would be lovely if everybody would be very diligent and read every message all the way through. But the reality is people read the headline or the title, and then perhaps the first 2 or 3 lines before making a decision in their head, read or ignore. So think about that. And then all the other usual rules apply as well when it comes to this. You have to make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date and relevant to your target audience. So important, and so many people forget to do that. They build these fantastic message flows, etc., etc. You click on their profile, and then you have no idea what these people do. It's rule number 1 of any LinkedIn lead generation activity. Do think about your profile as well. So when it comes to writing your InMails, we'll have a look at some example. We'll have a look at an example in a minute, one that I just knocked out very quickly earlier, and we'll show you how to implement that this Dux Soup platforms in a moment as well. But when it comes to writing your InMails, do think about these rules as well. Okay, so we've got 3 different tiers of Dux Soup. So we've got Dux Soup Pro, we've got Dux Soup Turbo, and Dux Soup Cloud. So let's start with Dux Soup Pro. And before, I'll do this slide and then I'll show you how to do it in real life. And then we'll swap onto the other 2 platforms as well. Basically, here is a run through as to how you can send out InMails to people in Sales Navigator and make use of that open link functionality. What we're going to do is we're going to enable our expert user options, which unlocks all the possibilities for being able to send InMails. We're going to go into our Dux Soup Actions menu and write our InMail. We're going to tag every profile with a Dux Soup tag to say we've InMailed them. We're going to set our skipping rules, and then we're going to find our list of prospects in Sales Navigator and start auto visiting them. And during those auto visits, Dux Soup will just skip through until it finds somebody who has got an open link profile, and it's going to send that message on my behalf. So let's come out of the slides a second and pop over to LinkedIn. Interesting, I've been logged out of LinkedIn. There we go. That's let's go back in here a second and see if we can get into LinkedIn. the wonders of doing things live, people. There we go. I am logged onto LinkedIn. Just a quick one for everybody. Interesting. Bear with me one moment. I'm just going to.
I'm also having an issue actually, Giles. So it could be that LinkedIn's having a.
It could be a LinkedIn issue, which would be unfortunate. Let me see if I can sign in. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Oh no, I'll stop sharing the LinkedIn page a second, and let me just. Yeah, that's good timing, isn't it, people? That's the benefit of doing these things live. Always a challenge. Okay, so I get into LinkedIn now, and then it's kicking me straight out again. So I think that there's a technical issue on LinkedIn currently.
Going to try and go in on a different. I'm just trying in Safari instead of in Chrome. Not that that necessarily helps you.
Interestingly, I'm actually able to get into LinkedIn, and then it immediately pushes me out again.
I can access it
into Sales Navigator.
I can get in Safari rather than Chrome.
Okay. Well, this is making for an entertaining webinar, isn't it? Unfortunately, it looks like I'm not going to be able to get into LinkedIn right now. What I will do is I'll continue to try to do that while we're running through the rest of the activities here. But if we just,
Charles, if you want to, we can run through some of the questions that have come in already. If that would help.
Well, what I'm going to do first of all, before I do that, I'm just going to finish off the little bit of stuff I was going to do here on Pro a second. Let me just finish this section here. So I can still walk through what we do in Dux Soup Pro before we have to run it in LinkedIn. But if we go into our Dux Soup options, so I'm going to click on my Dux Soup icon and I'm going to my Dux Soup options. Now, if you've got, for example, Dux Soup Pro, when you first go into your options, you'll see a menu that looks something like this. Ignore the fact that I'm running turbo here. I'm just going to be looking at pro functionality for now. And apologies for the slight delay here. I am going to continue LinkedIn whilst I'm talking as well. So you never know, we may be able to get a bit further. Here within our menu options here, I can actually then enable what we call the expert user interface. If I go in here and enable that expert user interface, what we can do here is here under our automated actions, we can now choose here to send an InMail during visits using Sales Navigator or Recruiter. I've then got here my InMail populated. I've given myself given my InMail a title. There we are, Discover Lead Generation Insights with Dux Soup. There we go, that's the title. And then I've got here my InMail message. Now there's a couple of things to notice here. I'm using my _FN_ to personalize my message. I could be using other markers there if I wanted to as well. But the other thing to recognize here is I've not signed off with anything. And there's a very good reason for that. And that is that when you fill in an InMail on Sales Navigator, it automatically populates a signature for you. So take that into consideration. You can customize that signature when you're in Sales Navigator. And if I ever get back into there, I will be able to show you. For some reason, LinkedIn is still not playing ball. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're just going to try clearing some cookies and see if we can get in that way. There we go. Accept. And we'll try signing in again. So there we are. We've now populated our InMail message that we're going to get Dux Soup to execute during our auto visits. And then one thing I would always recommend you do when you're doing this with Pro is I would always recommend down here that you tag the profiles with something such as, in this case, I'm going to give it an InMail tag. Dux Soup tags are a whole separate subject on their own, and we've covered them in some of our previous webinars. But basically what you'll see is if you tag a profile, it's basically giving it a label, which Dux Soup can then use to help you organize your outreach. If I tag the profile with this, then what I can do then is also make sure that anybody who I have already tagged in the past, I'm going to skip past, so I'm not going to be duplicating my activities. And we can control all of that here in our skipping rules. Go into my skipping rules and I can say, right, first of all, I'd like to skip anybody who's already been tagged with InMail. So there we are, we've done that one there. And then the last thing we're going to do before we once again try and get into LinkedIn, you never know, is we are going to skip if not an open link member. And if I choose that option there, sort of bear with me one second, I may have just got into LinkedIn. Multitasking here. Let's see if that works. Here we go, skip if not an open link member. That means that anybody who I try to enroll into, anybody who I visit who's not an open link member, they are going to get skipped past. And that way we can then target those people. I've got into LinkedIn, there we go. We have some success. So bear with me one second and I will just get up my Sales Navigator page and then I can show you how this works in glorious, uninterrupted Technicolor. Please do bear with us while we have some technical issues here.
For those that are on the...
Never work with children, animals and computers, is that right?
For those on the call,
anyway.
we've had a little bit of feedback. It looks like it's fine in the US, but Europe looks to be having a bit of a glitch. So it's probably just going around in a big circle, and it was keep refreshing, Ralph. And
yeah, what I did was I cleared my cookies, and that seems to have helped. Let me just pull up a Sales Navigator search result here a second. So remember here, we're still on Pro. We've not got as far as Turbo and Cloud yet. We've gone through our actions here. So first one, we've put our InMail content in here. We're going to tag the profiles with InMail, and then we're going to skip if not an open link member, and we're going to skip profiles if they've already got the InMail tag. If I just grab my Sales Navigator page here, there we are. So I've got here a list of prospects that I may want to reach out to and send my InMail to. My Dux Soup icon has turned green. Great. Ignore the fact this is Turbo if you're a pro user. You've still got the visit profiles option here now. And if I press the visit profiles button there, Dux Soup will refresh the page and it will start at the top. And what we'll see is we'll see skipping, 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 skipping. And then when it finds an open link profile, it will start to send my my InMail. So we're going to just leave this to run a second, and fingers crossed everything will work well in Europe. And yeah, it's always entertaining when this happens. It keeps us on our toes, doesn't it, Joe? We don't want to have life too easy for ourselves.
Oh, exactly.
I hope you had the song prepared as well, as usual. So I've actually got some skipping rules on here. So there you are. So it's now going to open Jana's, and it's going to send her an InMail. Now I'm actually going to stop the robot there and not let it send it for now, because what I would like to do is refresh this page and then crack on with, well, let's go to page 2, and then show you how we can do this in Turbo and Cloud, because we haven't even touched the campaign stuff yet. So let's do that. Let's go back to our slides then. So we've talked about Pro, and we've had some technical glitches to keep us on our toes, which has helped enormously. Right, so Dux Soup campaigns in InMails. If you're using Turbo or Cloud, you've got all the campaign features, and you can build Dux Soup campaigns to include InMails. Dux Soup will follow the limits you define for the number of messages it will send per day. So for example, if you enroll 1,000 people into an InMail campaign and you're sending out maybe 25 direct messages a day, it's going to send out 25 InMails a day. It will not go over that limit. You can control all of that through your Dux Soup options and the throttling settings, remember. So you can control how much outreach Dux Soup will do for you. And yeah, if you want to, you do a bulk enrollment and then just leave the robot to run. A lot of people I speak to think of working in sort of chunks, time chunks of a week or so, because then you can easily pivot to a different approach depending upon what you're doing, depending on what you're trying to achieve. To put people into a campaign effectively, we're going to build our campaign with an InMail in it. We're going to define our list in Sales Navigator. We're going to make sure, again, we've got those correct skipping rules enabled, and then just enroll your prospects as usual. So let's jump out of the slides again a second then. And what we're going to do is we are going to go into, well, we'll start off in Sales Navigator. So here in Sales Navigator, once again, our Dux Soup icon has turned green. So if we're using Turbo or Cloud, we then have the opportunity to enroll profiles. We can enroll from here, or we can do it from the sidebar, from the widget here. First of all, we want to define our campaign. So we go to our Dux Dash, and what I've got here, here's one I prepared earlier. I've got an InMail outreach campaign for the Dux Soup webinar. Here's my campaign. I have defined it. I've given it a title. I'm running it in Sales Navigator because we're sending InMails in Sales Navigator, and we've got our Sales Navigator account. Down here, I've put the start of a campaign. I've put a visit first, and then a day later, I've got my InMail, and I've got pretty much the same messages I defined just now in my Pro account. Hope you're doing well. Want to tell you about an upcoming webinar, blah, 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 blah. Let me know if you'd like more details or the registration link. There's actually a little bit more to it than that, but effectively that's the message. You would, of course, curate this message in a much more specific way towards your audience, and hopefully be able to build engagement through that. What I've then got a connection request going out a week later, which says, hey, I sent you an InMail a week or so ago, thought I'd follow up with a connection request. No harm in doing that at all. And then, of course, you can build your normal workflow out with your follow-up messages, which will go out as and when somebody accepts your connection request. So there we are. There's our InMail outreach campaign, as I say, prepared earlier. We now go back to our search result here in Sales Navigator, and we're going to go up to the top, and we're going to say enroll. Oh, we didn't check our skipping rules, so we're going to turn off these bits and pieces because we're not using those anymore because we're not using Pro. However, under skipping, we're still going to say skip if not an open link member. Really important that's the main one there that we want to focus on. We can't put someone in the same campaign twice, so skipping profile previously tagged isn't so important. If we're running one InMail campaign, then we can't put people in the same campaign twice. So remember that as well. Back to our search result. Click on our our Dux Soup extension icon, enroll profiles, and what we're going to do is we're going to go and find our InMail outreach, and then we're going to say, well, how many do we want to put in there? Well, if I'm going to be sending out maybe 20 a day, what day is it today? So we're going to do 80. We're going to do 20 over the next few days. Each day we're going to do 20. There we go. So what Dux Soup will now do is it'll reload this page, and it's going to find the first 80 people on this list who, first of all, haven't gone into that campaign before, and second of all, have an open link profile. Dux Soup can detect that from what we see here on the page. The gold IN gives us a clue. Those are premium members. Now, some premium members still block InMails, some don't, and some people choose not to display their premium membership. So Dux Soup is going to look at the code that it sees here on the page, and we can see now it's enrolling those people who are open link profiles and skipping anybody who is not an open link profile. Excellent. So it's now going through there, and it's found 7 people on page 1. So as an illustration here, we've got 25 profiles on this page, and 7 of them have got open link profiles. Now, this could be indicative perhaps of this population. I'm looking at digital marketing people, and we may see a higher number of open link profiles here compared to other populations. Every group is different. Every industry is different. Some people, it's more common to have open link profiles, premium accounts. In some populations, it's not. I tend to believe there seems to be somewhere between 10 and 15%, but that's just a guesstimate, to be honest, based upon my experience. Some populations, it's more, 20 to 30%. Some populations, it's less. We're now going to see it skip past some more. And while it's doing that, what we can do is nip back to our Dux Dash, and very quickly we can then have a look in our funnel, and we can start to have a look, for example, here, how many people have enrolled. We can see so far 11 people have been enrolled. Now we know there's going to be a visit, and then my InMail will be sent out accordingly. And what we'll see here as this campaign starts to run through its process, we'll be able to see here how many InMails have been sent against this campaign. We'll see the invites going out. We'll see the responses coming in. We'll be able to monitor this whole campaign as it starts to reach its level of maturity, if you like, and go through and start to put my prospects into this campaign. The great thing about this is I'm not burning through any of my InMail credits. So remember that all of those people who've got open link profiles are going to be getting my message, and I'm not burning through my credits. If I want to, I could, of course, use my InMail credits and not choose to skip those people. But there'll probably be certain campaigns that you want to do that for, depending again on the population that you're looking at. I'm going to go through now a very quick summary slide. So start to get your questions in. I suspect there's already some questions there that Joe's already got. She's primed and ready, I suspect. But very quickly here, the summary of what we've talked about today, despite the LinkedIn hiccups, we've explained what Dux Soup is and what InMails are. Hopefully that's clear to everybody, but feel free to put questions in the question box and we can answer anything around that. Why you might want to use InMails and ideas as to how to approach. We didn't look so much at the why you want to use InMails. It's more about how you can use it. I always think that if you're paying for a service such as Premium LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you've got this functionality. It can be incredibly useful, especially for business-to-business marketing. Probably less useful in B2C, to be honest. But LinkedIn is very much an environment where B2B marketing and sales is it's a real hotbed for that. We've talked about how to target just open link profiles in Sales Navigator, and how you can automate that with Dux Soup. Really, really powerful, incredibly useful. If you think that you maybe can send out, and I'm thinking here on very conservative numbers, if you think you can send out maybe 25 connection requests a day, and then you could send out 25, maybe 30, maybe even 40 InMails a day, and then you could get Dux Soup to maybe visit 100 or 200 profiles a day. You've got 3 different approaches there to get people to engage with you. You're no longer thinking just, okay, I've got an automation tool on LinkedIn, I'm going to send out connection requests. Well, yeah, you can do, but that's limiting yourself. You're paying for Dux Soup, you're paying for Sales Navigator. Make use of all of the functionality that's there to give you the best chance of getting good levels of engagement. We've gone through the process step by step as to how to do this in Dux Soup Pro, and then we've done it also with Dux Soup Turbo and Cloud. We've not gone into the details of all the functionality between Pro and Turbo and Cloud because we haven't got time for all of that, but maybe there'll be some questions now that Joe will fire in my direction to try and put me on the spot.
So we've got some nice ones actually. I'm just going to go from the top and get to the bottom. Andre said, one issue I've had with InMail first campaigns is once a lead responds to my InMail, then they accept my invitation to connect. Sometimes they are still sent a follow-up message, even though they've already responded. There's a couple of other people that I've seen said this. Should this be happening, and is there a way to automatically take leads out of the campaign once they've responded to an InMail? And
that's a good question.
I think Rob said this. No, Rob, not Rob. Someone else said the same thing.
We'll have to double check on that, because the expectation is if somebody responds, then the automation should stop. But I will double check that, and we'll get back to those users and make sure that that is in line with what should be happening.
So Andre, one of us will get back to you, okay?
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll update our support team as well. So the email address there at the bottom is our support team, and we will make sure that the support team have got the information so that they can provide that if for some reason you don't get a response after the webinar.
Yeah, okay. Ivan has asked, or Ivan, I'm not sure which, can we selectively skip open link profiles? For example, I want to do an InMail campaign and also a separate connection request campaign. Is there a way for the robot not to skip the open link profiles for the connection requests? And either or. Is this a Boolean search?
You need to do this there are ways to do this. Who's it? Ivan, yes, hi. Yeah, there is a way to do this. However, you can't do it in one go, okay, unfortunately. So what you would need to do, I suspect it's still running here, so we'll stop the robot. What I would do here is I would go and find my search result, and I would do the InMail option that I've just done there. And this will stop in a second, there we go. Once that process has gone through, and maybe you've got a search result, I don't know, maybe 500 people, and you've been through that lot and you've InMailed all of those people that you want to InMail, you've visited them, Dux Soup has sent maybe you've got a visit step as a first step in your campaign, and then the second step is an InMail like I've got there. What you can then do is set up another campaign which doesn't have the InMail in it, and then you can go into your search criteria here in Sales Navigator, and down here you can say, right, I'd like to exclude anybody I've already viewed, for example. So if that's the first step of your campaign and they've all been done, anybody you viewed will be taken out. So now you could build a campaign with just a connection request, a regular connection request in there, and then your follow-ups. If you're prepared to wait for the InMails to all go out, you could then also exclude, for example, the people you've messaged as well. So that's how you would do it. You do a two-step approach. First step would be to catch all of those people with open profiles and either view them or wait for them to all be messaged, and then use this filter here in Sales Navigator to clean up that list, exclude all of those people, and then enroll the rest of the people into your usual non-InMail outreach campaign.
Fabulous, sorry.
No problem.
Just responding to Aaron. Thank you for that one. With Dux, this is from Laura. With Dux Soup Turbo and Sales Navigator, I can already send messages to whoever I want, not first connected using campaigns. So what's the difference or the advantage of InMails?
So yes, you can send messages, but it depends upon what type of message you're sending. So if let's just go and find a couple of examples here. If we look at, for example, this gentleman here, yeah, we can send connection requests to these people, but we'll always be limited by the number of connection requests that we can send, and we're limited to 300 characters in a connection request. So if this guy here, for example, if I want to send this guy a connection request, we will be limited to 300 characters in our invite, and we can automate that with Dux Soup. Absolutely, yes, perfectly normal. InMails are effectively using the message function here. Now this guy here is not an open link profile. You can see here, if I message him, if I InMail message him, it's going to use one of my credits. So that way I can sort of, for example, if I want to send a longer message, I can use this message functionality. And yes, I could do that, and I can automate that through Dux Soup. But what we can also do is get Dux Soup to cherry pick out people who are open link profiles. We can then send an extended message, a more extensive message out to those people. So if we take this guy here, if I want to message this guy, there we are. It's free to an open profile. Dux Soup can do that automatically, can pick out that. And as I said earlier, when I said about the auto signature on the message, as soon as I start typing here, there you are, it appears. My signature appears there. So we don't have to put that signature into our message. It will auto populate into our message as Dux Soup populates your message in there.
Wonderful. Let's have a look at another one. Let's remove that one. Why can't you see the number of responses on InMail campaigns in the funnel? This is from Aaron.
Yeah, that's a question again for the developer. I will have to get clarification on that, because this is all to do with the responses to InMails that are coming in, and we need to double check that, and we'll get a response to everybody accordingly.
Fine, so I'll come back to you on that one as well, Aaron. Let's have a look. Matthew, I have Turbo but don't have access to actions and other tabs. How do I fix this?
Yep, that's a good one. Is it Matthew? Hi, Matthew. So what you'll find is when you go to let's rewind the clock. So if you go to your Dux Soup icon in the top right-hand corner, you have a little cogwheel here. You go to your Dux Soup options, and then go to your user tab here, and then enable the expert user type here. That will update your interface a little bit and give you some other options here. Now, if you are a Turbo user, it wouldn't be necessarily to use all of these options here. These options here, these automated actions here, are primarily for pro users, which is why that menu is hidden in some ways. The skipping rules and the throttling, etc., would be useful as a Turbo user, but to be honest, yeah, with Turbo you can use Dux Soup in lots of different ways, and that's to do with the way that the product has evolved over the 10 years it's been around now. So yeah, these automated actions are primarily used by pro users to do those live actions. If you're using Turbo and you're building campaigns, your campaign content is usually leading or enrolling prospects into campaigns, and then the content of that campaign is in charge. So that's why you don't by default have access to all of this information here. I hope that helps, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you.
There's actually a really good support article on that as well, which I'll try and dig out while we're talking.
Lovely, thank you. Where do I access the options Dux Soup page? That's from Michelle. I'm not 100% certain which.
So the Dux Soup options, yeah, we'll do that one again. So all we do is we click on our Dux Soup icon in the top right-hand corner, and you've got a little cog in the top right-hand corner. So if you've not got the expert options enabled, let me just show you how it looks to most people when they first install Dux Soup. There we go. So when you first install Dux Soup, you'll find it's actually a little bit smaller. It's the little cog wheel there in the top right-hand corner. That's where you can find your options.
Fab. Thank you. Next we have, are there any stats on what percentage of subscribers are open link? I'd have to Google that myself, to be honest. I don't know if you have any numbers in your bag of tricks, Giles.
No, there aren't any stats. I mean, as I said earlier, the feeling I get from speaking to people in my experience over the last few years of doing this, 10 to 15% would be maybe that's a slightly skewed number, because a lot of what I do is, you know, dealing with people who are working in digital marketing, etc., etc. So that's a very specific group of the population. Yeah, it's difficult to say now. If you if you go into the LinkedIn Premium, so we say workflow, to when you upgrade your LinkedIn account from free to a paid account, they say that you've got 2.6 times more likely response from an InMail than you have from a normal regular connection request. I don't see any statistics to necessarily back that up, but the idea is that, you know, if you're paying money, or you're engaging with people who are paying money, they're going to be more engaged on the platform. It's going to increase your chances of getting responses. The ones that I see, the InMails that I see being ignored tend to be the sponsored ones, and these aren't sponsored InMails. So there are all sorts of different ways of doing this, of sending InMails. So you can have sponsored messages, etc., etc. We won't disappear down that rabbit hole today, but there are sponsored messages. Those tend to be the ones that I see people ignoring, primarily because they are obviously just salesy. These are personal InMail direct messages. Yeah, I say, according to LinkedIn, when you go through that workflow, 2.6 times more likely engagement from an InMail than from a normal connection request.
Thank you. Does it only scrap the 25 profiles on each page?
Or scrape? Yeah.
Sorry?
I think scrape.
I haven't pre-read this. Does it only scrape the 25 profiles on each page? If yes, just clicking on the next page runs Dux Soup on that page, right? Says Bob. Sorry, Bob.
Hi, Bob. If anybody's watched, yes, there's an Apple program. Hi, Bob. Anyway, Dux Soup will automatically scroll to the next page. So if you've got 25 on a page and you want to put 75 people into your campaign, it will run through until it finds the first 75 people who fit your criteria and haven't gone into that campaign before.
Wonderful. How does the maximum number of profiles enrolled work? It stops after enrolling the number indicated. Does it stop after enrolling the number indicated after reviewing the profiles? Or sorry, Laura, I'm making a balls of this, aren't I? How does the max number of profiles enrolled work? Perhaps maybe you could answer that. Maybe that would be easier.
Cool. Now, I think what Laura's getting to here is when I press the enroll button, and I say, right, which campaign do I want to go into? This one, maximum number of profiles to enroll. If I go in here and I type in 10 and I press OK, Dux Soup will start at the top of the page that I'm on here, and it will find the first 10 people that fit my criteria and haven't gone into the campaign before, and they will be enrolled, and then it will stop. If I go in here and I type in 2000, it will do exactly the same. It will start at the top of the list and find the first 2000. Now, bear in mind, it's not going to find 2000 because not everyone's open link, and I only ever see 2,500 results in a Sales Navigator search. So maybe I'd go in here and maybe put 200 or 400, whatever it may be, and then Dux Soup will run through that list until it hits that defined number, whether it's 50, whether it's 200, whether it's 400, and then it will stop. And Dux Soup will then have already started doing your campaign activities in the background and starting to execute those actions. And if you queue up, for example, 2,000 actions, Dux Soup will perform so many actions per day based upon your throttling settings, which we'll cover in another webinar, and we've covered in many other webinars. That's all about the account safety and stuff. So say, for example, you're sending out 50 direct messages per day. Dux Soup will be sending out 50 InMails a day or 50 direct messages. So direct messages are InMails or messages to first degree connections from a Dux Soup perspective. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Let's have a look. Rob says, I've manually added approximately 500 connections and they've all accepted my request. Can I now enroll all of these people into an outreach flow, even though they are already a connection?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Not InMail related, but who was this from? This is Rob.
From Rob, yeah.
Okay, yeah, hi Rob. Absolutely, you can create a campaign, and this is not InMail related, so this is off topic. So you can create a campaign in Dux Soup that doesn't contain an InMail or a connection request very, very quickly. We'll go to our Dux dash here. We'll go to our InMail campaign, drip campaigns, and we'll go down here. For example, I've got one here just called first degree campaign. So I've called this first degree campaign because I would only put first degree connections in here. And what I've got here is I've just got a series of messages which go out on a drip feed to only first degree connections. So I've noted there's no connection request, there's no InMail, there's no nothing, none of that. It's just direct messages to my existing network. This is a great one for, what do we call it? Network nurturing. We had a really good webinar done on this last year by a guest speaker, a guy called Michael Simpson. He has a really good process built up whereby pretty much all of his first degree network gets 2 or 3 messages from him a year, reminding them what he does, spreading the word, sharing information, just a little drip out to people who he's already connected with, been connected with for years, and it can be incredibly valuable to remind that network that you exist.
I've just sent it out on the chat actually, so you've all got that article.
Cool.
I'm just sending the LinkedIn limits document to Matthew. There we go.
Have you got the premium article as well, the different premium ones, the different premium versions of LinkedIn? That way too.
I'll send that one in a second while you answer the next question.
Cool.
Let's have a look. That one. Does this also work in LinkedIn Recruiter Lite? Asks Morcha.
The skipping rule does not. So because the data isn't available when you're in a search result on Recruiter Lite, we can't see whether people have got an open link profile there or not. It doesn't work there within Recruiter Lite. Now, I think, and I'm prepared to be corrected on this because I don't currently have a Recruiter account. If you've got a Recruiter account, you can log off from Recruiter and log in into Sales Navigator and do this activity, but you can't do it directly from Recruiter Lite. I think that's correct.
Okay.
But I did check with the developer earlier today. The skipping, the detection of open link profiles is not possible on LinkedIn Recruiter Lite.
Okay, thank you. I'm just sending out that premium plans complete guide to everybody. That's on the chat now.
All the different paid versions of LinkedIn, yeah.
Yeah. What else do we have? Brill, thanks, says Bob. You're welcome. If you've already used all of your InMail credits for the month, and given that we're sending InMail to open profiles, will the campaign still run? Is that to go on the list?
Can you say that again, please, Joe? Sorry.
We've already used all of our InMail credits for the month. Given that we are sending InMail to open profiles, will the campaign still run?
If you're out of credits,
I guess not.
Yeah, there are different warnings that come through from LinkedIn, and I've seen a couple of different warnings that pop up on LinkedIn depending upon whether you're using credits or not. So there are different warnings that appear. So there is this relatively new limit of 200 open link InMails per week, which is a relatively new one as of this month. If you've burnt through all of your InMail credits, then yeah, Dux Soup will just literally say out of InMail credits, and it will stop there. I would need to double check with the developer to see if it then snoozes before it then tries again, because yeah, theoretically your InMail credits will not get refreshed until the calendar clicks over to the next month. there is, of course, the case if people respond to you that you get some credits back, but we'll double check and get an answer for you from that perspective.
So that was for Jenny Lynn. Apologies, Jenny Lynn, I should have said your name at the start. So we'll come back to you on that one. I'm a US national recruiter. This is George. This is quite specific. I'm a US national recruiter. Do you have an API where Dux Soup syncs with my applicant tracking system?
Dux Soup has an open API, absolutely. What I'm going to do is, while I'm answering that, I'm going to find the API documentation. So with either Turbo or Cloud, the Dux Soup API is available. It's an open API. I don't know what ATS you're using. We're always looking at possibilities for integrations, whether that's from ourselves or from other people. So yeah.
Echelon, it's called, which is
not familiar with that one myself. I'm just going to send you a quick URL, Joe, so that you can stick that one into the chat box. There you go. So yes, there's an open API. We are integrated with several CRMs already directly. We've looked at some ATSs in the past, and until now we're yet to find should we say, a partner that is open to developing with us or opening up their API for integration. But we are on the lookout for that going forward. And if there's a sufficient business case, then of course we would look at that going forward. Yeah, without knowing more details, then yeah, but we are always looking at these possibilities accordingly. So for example, last December, end of November, beginning of December, we launched our Salesforce integration, making use exactly of this same technology.
Okay, lovely. What curious about best practices. This is Jake. Do you recommend? Do you know what, Jake? I'll message you about that. Is there a way to enroll new profiles from a predefined campaign whenever new profiles with Sales Navigator are automatically added to the list? If not, should I do that manually? That's from Laura.
I lost my way partway through the question. Sorry, Joe.
Is there a way to enroll new profiles from a predefined campaign whenever new profiles with Sales Navigator are automatically added to the list?
Right, yeah, so you need to add people to the list yourself. Okay. So for example, you'd save a search. Yeah, you'd save a search in Sales Navigator, and then you'd go periodically to your new results and then enroll them again. We are looking at the possibility of being able to do that dynamically, and that's something that we've been looking at going forward over the next few months, I think. So then you'd literally put in the search URL and then it would update, but we're not there at the moment. So if there's new people appear in your search result, then Dux Soup will just execute against what you've defined at that moment. So yeah, you would need to go back to that search result periodically and enroll the new prospect accordingly.
Okay. If this is from Stephen, if I have a case where the LinkedIn account is flagged, e.g. I did some actual invites while the robot was going, how long should I not do any invites requests for before restarting the robot? Are you aware of any issues with him doing manual stuff whilst the Dux bot is
going? So yeah, we're now going down the route of a slightly different topic here. So you can use the Dux Soup planner to pause the robot while you're doing stuff manually, and that's what I would always recommend. So if you're wanting to manually send out messages or connection requests or interact with people via LinkedIn, use the Dux Soup planner to determine the active hours of the robot, and that's a super safe way of making sure there's not parallel activities happening on the account. Again, that's covered in our Keeping Your LinkedIn Account Safe article. Dux Soup's been around for 10 years, so everything we know about keeping your account safe is in that article. And yeah, I'd recommend having a read of that. But yeah, to prevent parallel actions happening, use the planner, snooze the robot at certain times when you know you're going to be manually active. And that is probably the best way to do that.
Okay. I'm just going to focus on InMail ones now then. Yes, Yahweh, we are integrated with Salesforce. And the only other one that's left on the list that's specifically InMail related or open to work, I think I saw skip open to work. Is there any way to only pick up the open to work people? I think you did mention this earlier, actually. I apologise, Giles. That's for Bob.
Did I? Let's go into our skipping options. Skipping. It's skip if not open to work. So yeah. So yes, that option is there, Bob. I've just seen the question. I just saw a question from Renee as well. I think maybe, I don't know if Renee's still with us or not. Can you filter out profiles that gets in the search based on keyword search, but it's related to past experience? Use Boolean search terms to filter out your people, filter out your lists, and use the exclude functions within Sales Navigator. So here you can specifically exclude people. So if you want to, for example, exclude people who are working in a certain area, or you know, for example, someone's got a job title that arrives spuriously on your list, you go and just exclude that job title from your, you know, whatever it may be, job title, there we go. So you can specifically include and exclude here, but then up here you can use Boolean search terms to make sure you're excluding certain so certain search criteria. And Talisa, yes, there is an integration already with HubSpot. You go to the Dux Dash, and whether you're using Turbo or Cloud, on the left-hand side under the CRM integrations here, you can then integrate directly with your HubSpot environment already. And that integration's, I think, been there now for about 3 years. So yeah, 2.5 to 3 years, I think we've had a HubSpot integration there. So yes.
There we go. There are a few other questions that remain. I will tackle those.
Well, do you want to flick through them? I'm happy to flick through them if we've got another couple of minutes.
Okay. Can you filter out profiles that get in the search based on keyword search, but it's related to a past experience?
That's the one I just covered. Yep, sorry. That's the Boolean search one and excluding, yeah.
Is the viewing, connecting, InMailing and messaging totally random? As this is Annie, as we got banned from LinkedIn using Meet Alfred. So is Dux Soup safer?
Of course it's safer. We've been around longer, and we're very well established in the market. Dux Soup is designed to mimic the human behavior on the LinkedIn platform. And yeah, my recommendation, if you've got any questions at all, have a look at, I'm going to put it up on the screen here. Do your research and have a look, for example, at this article here, how to use LinkedIn automation safely. This is our Bible, effectively. So have a read through this. It gives you a description as to what we know can cause issues, why you may get banned, and how you can keep your account safe. So follow the guidelines in here, and you'll be fine. And yeah, use Dux Soup rather than one of our competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just sent that link out on the chat as well as to you, Annie. I have a case. This is, oh, we've answered that one, the robot one. This is PJ. If I run a campaign from the recommended leads from Sales Navigator, then a few days or a week later run the recommended leads again, if some contacts are still in there from the first campaign, do they get the second one? Or how can I skip them? We've done lots on skipping today, haven't we?
Okay, so yeah, recommended leads. Yeah, because you're running from a lead list in Sales Navigator, very briefly, there's limited amount of information available from a lead list there we go, there's my recommended lead list, which you get every week. But essentially, if you try and put these people into the same campaign, it's going to skip past them. You can't put somebody in the same campaign twice, so it will skip them if It may have to visit them in order to know to skip them. But yeah, essentially, you can't put something in the same campaign twice. And if you do put people into 2 campaigns, then the most recently enrolled one will take precedence, or will take priority. So just think about that. The other thing you could do is, as your recommended leads come in, you could just copy that list on a weekly basis rather than just running it from recommended leads. Copy the list, create recommended leads week 1, week 2, week 3, for example, and create a live. And then you can also see, make sure you're excluding people. One of the useful things you can do from a lead list like this, we've got here my recommended leads, and this will be the last one, I think. If we go into our lead filters here, and a lot of people forget this. If I now go into my lead filters and I want to have a look at that lead list, I can go in here and I can say, let's have a look at, there we go, it's there, lead lists. Let's have a look at my recommended leads. So here, I can now look at my recommended lead list in a search result. So there's my 100 results from my lead list. So now I can run my campaign from here in a much more effective way, because Dux Soup can see more data here than it can from a lead list. And you'll find that a much more effective way to work. And I forget who the person was that asked that question. Apologies, whoever it may be.
PJ.
PJ, there you go. Hope that helps. But I would recommend, yeah, if you've got lead lists you're running from, save them and then run your actions from the lead list here within the search result, because you can then actually filter it even better by connection level, etc., etc. And then you've actually got a much better level of integration with Dux Soup, because Dux Soup can see a lot more data on this page than it can from a lead list page.
Okay, wonderful. I did want to just answer Jake's question. Curious about best practices. Do you recommend sending a note with the invite, or is it better not to show your cards too soon? It's like a minefield discussion point, but we've had so many different approaches. We all use different ones ourselves. We've had some really good sessions. I've just sent you a link to one which was about Michael, about how he nurtures people and kind of drip feeds information over a good period of time. We've also had a guy who did a webinar last year, if not the year before, called Elvin Mutasamy, where he would always just send blank connection messages after liking, endorsing and things like that. So he would do a little bit of prep work, then just send a blank message so that they're already aware of the name on the profile. So there's lots of different things you can do there. It's probably more trial and error, Jake, to be honest.
Or A/B testing. Have a campaign with a message, have a campaign without a message, see which works better. Every industry, every region seems to have different standards. So yeah, there is no right or wrong answer. It's what works for you. Yeah,
wonderful. PJ's come back and said thank you. And then last question that I've got is from Steve Jard. Does Dux Soup recognise when a connection request is accepted, or does it assume that the connection has been accepted? I think that is
if you're using Turbo or Cloud, Dux Soup will recognise it's periodically checking for new connections and then queuing up whatever is coming in, or queuing up whatever's next in your campaign. If you're using Pro, it doesn't do that. It doesn't check for connections because it's only carrying out one-time actions against the list you define.
Okay, perfect. And that brings us to the end of our questions. How wonderful. We're 5 minutes over, so I'll keep this short and sweet. Obviously, our next webinar is on the 4th of February. That's in 2 weeks' time, so we'll be here again. I am joined next time by our Head of Marketing, Adam Osman, and our Affiliate Partnerships Manager, Nofel Ibn Mizan, who you can see their pictures down there. We're going to be talking about maximising your earnings as a Dux Soup affiliate. So if you're already an affiliate, this is great to join to find out what's new, what's been updated. And if you're not already an affiliate, but you'd like to explore and learn more about it, what we have to offer, obviously this is, you can earn commission basically on everyone you have to bring over the line, then it's a good one for you to join as well. So join us then. I'm not going to send the link out today. We're just doing a little bit of stuff in the background on the webinar platform. So I will hopefully have that on the website tomorrow. And I will send that out obviously on email as well to all of those who subscribe to our, well, to us, who subscribe, full stop, there we go.
So I get a week off, do I?
get a week off, yeah. And we have a guest with us after that one called Jay Inman, who we've talked about a little bit before, who we've got a really, really good success story to go. So that will be on the 21st of February. Let's ignore that one for now. We can come back to that later, given that we've gone over time. Needless to say, I'm looking at Giles' face. Needless to say, if you have your own success story, then if you get in touch with me, just look me up on LinkedIn and just connect on LinkedIn. I'm Jo Henderson, or email eve@duxsoup.com, and we can get you talking to me to see whether we want to do a webinar with you, a case study, whether there's some blog article that we can work on together.
And you're always welcome to, of course, send me a connection request on LinkedIn. Send me as well. You know, I usually say that at the start, but if we had some LinkedIn hiccups, so that didn't happen. But yeah, similarly, if you've got stories and you want to share information or whatever, yeah, just look me up on LinkedIn. Very, very happy to interact with people. I'll do this one. If you're looking for extra help, if you're stuck, our support team is available via the support web pages, which we've shared, I think, already, and the email address info@dux-soup.com. If you're looking for consultation help, if you need assistance with building something or finding a solution to your process and that kind of stuff, we've got other options available there as well. And those sessions are run by either myself or my colleague Scott, who is over on the other side of the world. And that's everything.
Yeah, that is everything. Thank you. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. I know we've run a little bit over time, but it's great to have you with us. And thank you, Giles. And well done with the glitches as always.
despite the little the gremlins in the system, we got there in the end. Thanks everybody for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. Bye.